is up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Collectors Assemble Live here on ToyQuest101. And I am super excited today because we have our special guest, the man of the hour, Tom Spina from Regal Robot. Tom, thank you so much for being on tonight's show. Appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you. Literally all. Thank you all. And I'm not talking to the audience. I'm just talking to the sheer volume of people on the screen right now. So I feel like I'm in the Brady Bunch.
I promise it's going to be a fun show. We're still waiting on somebody to come in. He's running a little late. But I want to introduce the panel, right? Because for an episode like this is called Collectors Assemble. So I had to make sure that I assembled the best panel for the occasion, all the Star Wars lovers out there in the galaxy of YouTube world. And we're going to start with the man, the myth, the legend, the Medina-Lorian, George Medina in the house again. Thank you for coming on, bud. How you doing?
What's going on, man? Thanks for having me, man. Glad to be here.
Of course, bro. I could not do this without you. We're going to talk about, a couple videos you've done for Regal, and we're going to talk about the two pieces you have there on your desk a little bit later on in the show. So appreciate you being on. Also, we have Josh McCoy from McCoy Culture. Hey, what's up, bud? How you doing?
What's going on, man? Always a pleasure to be on. Looking forward to a great show.
Dude,
to see what Tom has spilled the beans for some cool Regal Robot stuff.
I know, right? I'm happy to have you on, man. I know you just released your Loki video, so saw that earlier. Pretty good.
Thank you.
All right, man. We got Connor from Whatnot. Connor, what's up, bud?
Hey, man. Hey,
Dude,
guys.
I'm happy to have you on. I'm happy to have you on. I know Star Wars is really big in the comic world and whatnot, and there's a lot of new Star Wars comics coming out, so I'm excited to have you on as well.
Love Star Wars.
Hey, let's go. And of course, none other than Dennis Perez, the Puerto Rico statue collector from ToyQuest101 Unboxed. What's up, buddy?
I'm geeking out big time with time here.
Yo, let's go, man. Listen, I appreciate you guys all being on. We're going to have Dr. Mike, the Iron Doctor, so he goes by now, right? He's going to be on soon, so we're just waiting for him to come on. But yeah, man, listen, before we start, usually I do this at the end, and I want to do it in the beginning because this is where the bread and butter is at. So, Tom, if you really want, put your plugs in real quick for me and let everybody know where they can find you and stuff. I know it's a little early, but I'd rather do it now.
No, that's fine. That way they can go tool around on the site and look at all the stuff we're talking about. So you can find me we're regalrobot.com or tomspinadesigns.com. Those are the two businesses that my fun little crew partakes in. And on social, we are at Regal Robot and we're at Tom Spina Designs. That's YouTube, that's Facebook, that's Instagram, that's Twitter, etc. down the line. And if you are on Facebook, there is an all-new Facebook group that we've got. It's the Regal Robot Fans and Collectors Showcase. Just start typing those letters in. It'll pop right up in the search, and then hit join, answer a few questions so we know you're not a robot, and someone will let you in.
Nice. We're going to have to definitely
We just hit 800 people. It's only been a couple of weeks. So
nice.
Growing fast, lots of people sharing stuff. We're showing behind the scenes stuff. We're doing giveaways. When we hit 1,000 people, we're doing another contest for a gift certificate. It'll be it's a good time over there. If you're not already there, come join us.
Dude, yeah, I'm definitely gonna do that. I didn't even know that, so that's good to be aware of that because I'm jumping on there for
801.
sure.
801. Woo!
801. Don't worry, it'll climb. I'm sure it'll climb. Listen, so today's gonna be a really good episode, fun episode because obviously we're gonna talk about Tom Spina. And listen, for me, this is really exciting because I love his journey. I was just telling him before we went live. I love his journey. I love how he got to the point where he's at now with the hobby. Obviously, he's a fan as well, so there's a lot of heart and passion that goes into what he does. And, his products speak for themselves. But it's all about the journey. It's all about how he got there. So I think I want to start with first, Tom, just talk to us about how you even got started doing what you're doing. I know you started at a very young age, but talk to us about how it all began. I want the origin story of Tom Spina.
So I was bitten by a radioactive spider and then fell into a vat of chemicals. What's another good villain story? There was electricity. There were electric eels in the vat, and I mean, for me, it's kind of like certainly with Star Wars, it's ever since '77. Before that, it was King Kong or The Wizard of Oz or any other fantastical movie, anything else that had something completely out of the ordinary that seemed like it shouldn't be real, but it looked real on screen. That made me nuts. Like I just always saw it as something I wanted to recreate. I enjoyed the movies and I would love all that stuff, but it was always the idea that these were made by people and that made it special to me. And this is even as like, 4 or 5 year old kid. And so, my whole school years were spent sitting, drawing in the back of my notebook, how I would do some stunt in the backyard and film it on a Super 8 camera, or how I was going to make stop motion out of my Star Wars action figures, or how I was going to do custom action figures because they weren't making the ones I wanted, that kind of stuff. And I've always just had this, I don't want to sound hoity-toity, but there's like, sometimes you see things for what they are and sometimes you see things for what they can be. And I feel like I've always been in that second category. I always see things as like, oh, that could be a part of something else. Or like, this could be, this could be improved. Maybe I get a mask and I would repaint it, or I'd put different hair on it. And that really, all of this happens with a backdrop of, starting to learn makeup effects through magazines and books like Tom Savini's book, being into puppetry and getting my first job in the industry, my internship at the Muppets at Henson at Sesame Street, and just being obsessed with movie props in general. And that all kind of comes together at a time where the internet hits, and where suddenly, we had had a company that was doing puppets on local stuff. We actually had characters on QVC for a while, like for 2 years, selling toys and things like that. All this is happening, but there's no way to reach people with it. And then the internet hits, and it's like suddenly there's the RPF, the Replica Prop Forum that Brandon Allinger started, who's now over at Prop Store. And I'm connected immediately with all of these other people that share that same passion. All of the other people that either want to collect this stuff, which I mean, the whole reason I wanted to make stuff was because I wanted to have stuff, like most of the masks back here are things I made over the years or that we've made in the shop for things. And it's like, I didn't make them just because it was like, oh, I'm dying to make such and such. Although, there's a bit of that. It usually was like, I really want to have a Dr. Evazan head, or I would love to have the bartender from the cantina,
right.
Dumb stuff. And I'm just like, well, nobody's making it, so I guess I'll just do it. That all kind of comes together. The RPF hits in. Prop collecting as a whole starts really taking off late 90s. And that goes with replica props, where you have the licensees starting to come in as well. And it also goes with the screen use props, which became a passion of mine. The idea that, you could hold something in your hands that was used in a movie. To me, there's just like, this is that direct, like 100% connection to the movie you saw, holding that thing in your hand or being this close to it, looking at it face to face. And I always thought that was out of reach. I was like, oh, that's the sort of thing. Millionaires do that. Regular people can't have props, or only the studios have those. They'll put them on display at MGM down in Florida, but you can't get them. And then I started to know the guys that made them, and realized that a lot of them just kept the stuff, and started to network with other people who had stuff. And all of a sudden, my replica prop collection started to shift to a lot of screen use props. And I was very lucky. I was in at a time where you could do that, and you could be a regular person and just pick up a lot of screen use stuff. Now it's a little tougher, but being in that community led to the whole restoration thing. You wanted an origin story. It's a long one, but
no, I like it. I love it.
It's a good one.
Combining the skills that I kind of gained making stuff and wanting to improve stuff and seeing things for what they were, or what they could be rather, dovetailed with this prop collecting and seeing props that were maybe not displayed well. Maybe it was someone had a costume from a movie and it was just on a hanger. And I'm like, well, why don't you make a mannequin? And they're like, well, it's an Arnold Schwarzenegger costume. All the store mannequins don't work. It's like, well, I can make Arnold Schwarzenegger's body. Let's just, let's do that. Let's sculpt up his head. Let's make the whole thing. And, so this display angle of, what could you do to take this thing and make it more than just the parts, turn it into something that has some context and some character, but is still respectful and museum-y and looks important. And then the restoration comes out of, there's no such thing as a perfect casting, right? Anytime you're making, whether it's resin or latex or whatever, there's always, either a seam you've got to clean up or an air bubble or whatever. And certainly with latex, it's as challenging as can be. And learning to fix that well led me to being able to start fixing original masks and props, and Star Wars things started to come through that were, deteriorated over the years, and Gremlins and Critters and Ninja Turtles. Oh my. And I really dove into the idea of conservation, started reading up a lot on archival materials and things like that, and then started experimenting and saying, I know how to fix this stuff with latex, but how do I fix it with something archival? And what exists in the archival world that could be repurposed in a way that I could use it as an effects guy might? And that led to developing a whole series of techniques and things like that we still use at the shop now, almost 20 years in, restoring original props. And we've gotten to do that now for the Henson Archives. We've gotten to do it for the Lucasfilm Archives. We've done it for Lucasfilm proper. We've done it for auction houses and collectors all over the world. And it leads us to have a studio absolutely packed and brimming all the time with amazing stuff. I almost said something else, but stuff from original, amazing original props from all of these crazy movies. And you still, every time, no matter how long I do it, when something new comes in, you hold it and you look at it and you go like, why is this even in my hand? Like, this doesn't make sense. This is that thing. Like, it's right here. And you just immediately get connected back to when you saw the movie, when you first glimpsed that thing on screen. And that's still just the first half of the story, right? From there, we had built up this relationship with Lucasfilm. We built up a relationship with Disney. We made stuff for the theme parks. We had made stuff, things for Lucasfilm proper. And we're in the right place to talk to the right people. And we had been developing the idea of crazy themed furniture beyond, putting a logo on something, but turning a dewback into a sofa, making high carbonite into a desk, things like that. The asteroid field with the Falcon flying through, that's a coffee table.
Yeah.
I'm about to bring that up right now.
And it took us a long time to find the right person who understood where we were coming from with that. And wanting to do decor like the mythosaur skulls and things like that, where it wasn't just, we have some 2D art that you can put on a wall and things like that. And that's, we want to make sure that we're hitting all our collectors, whether they've got $20 to spend or thousands of dollars to spend. But, the core of what we do is pretty kitschy. Even the magnets we're making are a lot of times pretty unique stuff that is for the deep cut collector. And once we hit someone at Disney there we go. Once we hit someone at Disney that really got what we were talking about, when we say something like, Han Carbonite as a coffee table, most of the people were like, huh. And then at one point we hit on someone at Disney Consumer Products who was just like, oh, I need that for my living room. And as soon as that hit, it was like, oh, there we go. That's our person. And that's how Regal Robot came to be. That's when we got the license to do Star Wars decor and furniture. And eventually we got very, very kindly nudged into the collectibles world by our rep at Lucasfilm, who, had a talk with me one day and just said, your contract renewal is coming up. What do you really want to do? And he's like, I know you're doing furniture. I know you're doing this collectible stuff, but what do you really want to do? And I'm like, I want to make replicas of artifacts. I want to make, not just prop replicas. I want to do characters. I want to do busts that no one would ever be able to do in a mass-produced setting. And he went to bat for us with Disney, and then when our next contract came up, that's when the custom character studio side of things opened up, and that became the archive collection, and that I'll say takes us to about today, and we've been on for 3 hours. Good night, everybody. It was a good talk. Okay, bye.
Listen, so I mean, obviously, it's a lot to take in, but it's such a great story, man, and that's kind of why I wanted to have you here, because it's about the journey when it comes to yourself and Regal Robot and stuff. But like, I guess my next question would be, when you got that first interaction with Lucasfilm or the Star Wars property, how did that come about? Like, what was your emotion going through it? Like, were you expecting it? Was it a surprise? Were you just like, oh my goodness, I can't mess this up? Like, how was that?
So there's kind of two big moments in that. One was going to Sideshow Collectibles to pitch them on us prototyping some busts for them. And that led to us doing, myself and Brian Lewis sculpted the Cantina band member bust that they did years and years ago. And in fact, we sculpted that in my house. The studio, I used to have just a couple of rooms in the house that were the studio, just upstairs. That was really interesting and a little nerve-wracking. And we were once removed from Lucasfilm at that point. But the idea of working on a real licensed, official, approved Star Wars product was pretty wild at the time. And it's hard to explain. There's like a legitimacy that comes from doing that work that feels different from just doing stuff on your own. And
you're like, baby, we made it. We made it.
Yeah, it's like, the guys from Tested were shooting at our shop when we first opened Regal, and Adam Savage was there, who I'm very lucky to know for a while from back in the RPF. And he turns over one of the skulls we make, and he just sees copyright LFL, and he just looks, he's like, you made it, and it's like,
wow,
that's the feeling. But that was the first one. The next one really was the big one, though. Lucasfilm in 2011 Volkswagen had requested that Lucasfilm provide them a bunch of aliens for a commercial where they were going to recreate the cantina for the Super Bowl. And Steve Sansweet and Pablo Hidalgo were folks I knew over there just from being fans together. And Steve as a fellow collector, and Pablo just as a fellow person who was obsessed with the background details and aliens in Star Wars. And this is, a time where, this pre-Disney, this is Lucasfilm was still a very kind of independent entity at the time. And so Volkswagen said, we want to do this thing. Can you send us the masks that were in the movie? And they said, well, one, we don't have them, and two, even if we did, they're too old. They're brittle. They're falling apart. You can't use them again. And very luckily, Steve and Pablo were on the same meeting or whatever, and they both said, what you need is Tom Spina. He's already sculpted half of these things.
Oh, wow.
Nice. So
I got this call from Volkswagen. It was actually, it was the ad agency that was doing the spot. And they're just like, we'd heard from Lucasfilm that you're the guy to talk to for Cantina aliens. It's like, oh, wow, okay. And so me and the team got together, and in 3 weeks we created, I think it was 10 different aliens, a couple that were full costumes, one that was in makeup, a bunch of masks. A handful of those were masks that I had already sculpted, but most of them were brand new for the thing. Like Walrus Man here was one of them, and there's others behind me. We pulled all of this stuff together. Then we flew out to California, and we shot on the same stage where the Phantom of the Opera was shot. And they still had the opera set up at the time. They've since torn it down, but it was crazy. And they built a full cantina that was fully enclosed. They had wild walls, but it was enclosed when we first went in there. And that feeling of walking into the cantina, we also, we helped with the set because they didn't have great reference or whatever. I had the blueprints and I had the reference and all of this stuff. So it was it was a wild feeling walking into that place for the first time. It's kind of like, you know, when you walk into Galaxy's Edge for the first time, I think is probably the best way to put it for anybody who hasn't had that experience. But it was to do that and see all of our aliens out there mingling with some of the prequel aliens, because the people from the Lucasfilm archives had brought in some of the prequel aliens to be in the background of our stuff, which is just ridiculous. You know, it's
I bet you were freaking out,
sure
huh?
you don't want to be in the front? Like, no, we need Walrus Man and Amazon. Get him over here. You know, it's like, okay. You know? So yeah, it was like this weird out of nerd body experience to be there and to soak all that in. And that's really the big moment. You know, it's like, yeah, doing the stuff for Sideshow was cool, and we did their Boba Fett life size and a bunch of other stuff, but that was like, you know, man, that's where you get a feeling of like we've just done something special, and you know, wow, how cool is it that we're included in this?
Dude, I mean,
that's cool.
You can, listen, you can just tell by how excited you are, how much it means to you, right? And like I've been showing a couple, examples on your website of some of the custom work that you could do on here, and it's just, I mean, a lot of it's just breathtaking. I mean, everybody in the comments, which I'm gonna get to everybody in the comments in a little bit, is kind of freaking out looking at the stuff that you have on there, but it's like really amazing, man. Like I can't. Like the attention to detail, all the little things you guys reference and stuff. And of course, we're going to talk about a couple things that, Medina has. And we're going to talk about, your latest reveal that you revealed on the first in honor of the Mandalorian. So we're excited about that. Let's say hi to the chat real quick. Now that everybody's kind of tuning in, I hope Dr. Mike is okay, because I haven't heard from him. But let's say hi to Johnny. What's up, Johnny? Thanks for stopping by. Appreciate you. We got Collector's Entity. I'm just gonna try to zip through these. We got Payne. Thank you, brother. We got Josh doing double duty. Facebook user. That has to be Carlos. It's always Carlos on Facebook.
Yeah.
Oh, here we go. We got a Mandalorian on here. Luis, what's up, man? FBJ's on. My guy. Aurelis, she's one of the best. Love her. Payne, we got Star Wars. Star Wars bloke. What's up?
What's going on, Luke?
We got Alan Kiefer on.
Alan,
what's up? Haunt of the Collector. My
Jason.
guy. Listen, this guy's from. We're gonna have a new segment, guys.
Here we go.
We're gonna have a new segment with him. So he's from England. And he does a lot of like Lord of the Ring reviews and stuff. Awesome guy, right? But obviously they have their own lingo out there. So we're gonna have a segment where he goes ahead and he says something to us the way they say it out there. We got to figure out what it means. And he already sent me a recording. So eventually we're gonna start that on the show. But I'm excited for that. We got Amir on. What's up? We got Johnny. A lot of people on. Got Connor doing double duty.
That's me.
I know. Hyperdrive doing double duty. Beast 51. Mike, what's up, man? Chasen, he wanted to be on so bad, but he got caught up at work. Oh man, I can't wait to Carlos is on. We got Joe on. A lot of people on here. Nice. Man.
It's a Friday night. Where else are you going to be?
Six Scale.
It's the place to be.
Anton from Six Scale Mafia. What's up, man? Carlos. Wow. All right. If I missed a couple of you guys, I'll get to you guys. Single Songwriters on. Let's go. What's up, man? Big Dog Pound 1. Another guy who's always everywhere. I swear that guy's everywhere. But anyway, we'll get back to everybody momentarily. But man, let's move on. Let's move on. So obviously we got a lot to talk about. I want to talk a little bit more now about the Muppets, right? That was a big part of your your introduction to the hobby. But what does the Muppets mean to you and Jim Henson? I mean, obviously a legend, right?
Man. Yeah. When it comes to heroes, Jim is right up there with me. It's hard to think of someone who I admire more, there are different people with different types of talent and skill sets and things that maybe you like Rick Baker for one sort of thing. You like Stuart Freeborn for some other thing, even Tom Savini, just because of his book and how much that meant to me growing up and all of that. But, and certainly, you get into on the filmmaker side, George Lucas and Spielberg and all of that, and tons of others. But Jim is just someone that just as an all around positive, creative force. It's hard to overestimate his impact, I think, on the world, not just on me. He passed away right before, about 2 years before I actually got my internship there.
Oh,
but
wow. Yeah.
Even still, you could feel his presence there. And I don't mean that like a ghost or anything, although I'm sure there's probably, there's no way people who make Muppets aren't haunted. But it really was, just in everything everybody did. It was this very family company at the time. It was a very family atmosphere at Sesame, and the crew that had been there, this is early 90s. They had been there since the late 60s. So, the whole time they felt ownership of all of this. They felt stewardship of it. And they would often invoke Jim's ideas, his ideals, and occasionally his name. I did get to see a director kind of politely shut up an effects guy who was trying to do something with smoke pots in a way that would have been inefficient. And the director was like, well, you can do it with just one. And the effects guy is like, no, you have to use two. And the director was just like, well, Jim always did it with one. And the guy was like, well, let's do it with one. Okay, let's go. And that was it. It was shut down. But for me, the Muppet Show hits right around the same time as Star Wars. And unlike Star Wars, which, I could relive through books and action figures, the Muppets were in my living room every, was it Monday or Tuesday at 7:30 on CBS?
Yeah.
With the special event sign swirling in the thing. I mean, they were, this wild bunch visiting you weekly to bring mayhem and music and comedy. And it was it's great to go back and watch them and relive it. And to watch, for me, I love watching when I say the arc of the show, I don't mean the arc of the characters, but I mean the arc of the creators almost. Right. And to see it go from this weird, very sort of out there, disjointed variety show to, this, by 5 seasons in, these really strong character pieces was cool. And it's amazing to think how those characters are now such a part of life and everyone knows them. And so, I mean, the Muppet Show, especially, Fraggle Rock to some degree, certainly Sesame Street was, as a kid, captured my imagination. And with all of it, it was still, even though I love the characters, it was still the idea that it was made that captured me. And it was that made me want to make puppets. And I would build them, and I would learn how to puppeteer things, and I would learn the tricks of shooting them and stuff like that, just because that was the part that fascinated me.
That's awesome, dude. I mean, the Muppets is definitely iconic too, but I feel like you got to dabble in like the most iconic properties, period. And I think that's so cool. It's like every kid's dream come true.
It's not lost on me, man. It's my dream come true, and it's, there's no shortage of work that goes into all of that. But it's still, it's certainly rewarding as hell. And it's the sort of thing that, it's what's the old saying? It's like, oh yeah, if you do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life. It's the opposite. It's like, if you do what you love, you'll never stop working. Because it's just, it feels worth it. It's not easy. It's still work, and it's sometimes so hard, but you know why you're doing it. You know what comes of it. And it's, it's not the money. It's not the, it's certainly, okay, I'll be honest. It's doing podcasts. That's the reason I do all of this, is just for shows like but yeah, it's super rewarding. I'm very lucky. I just feel very fortunate.
Listen, so I feel like we should talk to Netflix. You know how they have those shows where they build the pool and they bring the family and they reveal it? I feel like you should do that with your customers with some of the custom pieces. But one thing I noticed, right, is that obviously you've been inspired by, I mean, we all been inspired by, all these properties, whether it's the Muppets, whether it's Star Wars, but now you yourself are kind of paying it forward and inspiring people like us. So that's gonna get, my next question is going to be to the Medina Lorian, because he's obviously has the the Hyperdrive channel. He's loves Star Wars. You could tell by his background. But George, why don't you talk a little bit about how Star Wars inspired you and how Regal Robot has played a role in your reviews and the stuff that you have on your desk? And he just literally did the gaffy stick, which for me is one of the coolest things ever. But yeah, talk to us about the gaffy stick as well.
Star Wars inspiring me, right? The first time I saw Star Wars was Return of the Jedi. I was like 5. It was the first movie I ever saw with my father. The first memory of being in the theater was seeing Return of the Jedi, and I was captivated by the whole scene with Jabba the Hutt and the creatures and the ships and the space battle and the lightsabers and everything. But from that moment on, it's like my mom used to record me with audio tapes, because we couldn't afford a camcorder or anything like that. So we had these audio tapes, and all you would hear in the background is Star Wars playing in the background, the music. It was always like 24/7 going on in the house, to the point that I like ruined the VHS tapes. So I had the figures. I've always been blown away by it. And then there was, that time period where we didn't have any Star Wars, and all we had was books and comics and stuff like that. And in my late teens, they re-released the movies in the theaters. This was the special edition, I think is what they called it at that point. They re-released them in the theaters, and I was blown away by it all over again. And I started collecting again, and little things here and there, buying pieces here and there. Master replicas came back into play just as the prequel started, I think episode 2, and I got my hands on a lightsaber. And then I found the RPF, and I started making my own props here and there. I made a Luke Skywalker lightsaber in my early 20s, and I got contacted by one of the people in the 501st, and it just was like, I didn't even realize that this community existed. I kind of just was doing it on my own, kind of like what Tom said, that I thought that, I wanted it. I didn't know how to get it. And the only way I knew how to get it was to try to build it myself. My dad had an auto mechanic shop, and I would use his tools and stuff to try to build my own stuff. And it was cool. And I made it the way Master Replicas did it, with the plaque and the glass case and everything. And I was proud of it. And it just was, it's always been something with me that Star Wars has kept me in the mix of all this. And I wanted to work for Lucasfilm. I wanted to do animation and create movies and sculpt. And I learned all that stuff. I tried to teach myself a lot of it. So when I got married and my wife bought my first statue, which was the one from Sideshow, there's a Darth Vader, the Mythos statue. It drew me into this world of that type of magnitude of a statue, where it was just like so crazy and so detailed. And I just was like, man, I gotta be involved in all this. So the first con that I cover is Star Wars Celebration. I think it was like 2017 or maybe 2014, but Regal Robot was there, and they were showing off the Dewback couch, and that was the first time I saw Regal Robot, right? And I didn't kind of understand what it was at first. It was like Star Wars furniture, and I was like, my wife is never gonna be cool with this, So, I was like, I came by the booth, I saw the Falcon, and I was like, this is dope, man. I couldn't believe that people made this kind of stuff. And I didn't get to talk to Tom. I mean, he was like swarmed by a bunch of people. There was everybody, like the booth was like full. And I thought that was really neat. So it was years of me doing these videos up until now, when I started the Hyperdrive, that I finally got to speak to Tom. And and the first piece that I got from Regal Robot was the Mythosaur skull, and I have that up here. You can't see it on camera right now, but it's right above me. And I was blown away by the detail in that thing. You know, it's like I'd never seen decor like that. You know, in hand. You know, and holding the Mythosaur skull in hand is something else. The big one. It's not that 6-foot one, but the bigger one of the three that you saw.
He said it's not the 6-foot one.
Yeah, I saw that one on screen. I didn't even realize there was a 6-foot one. I was like, Jesus.
Oh, are we gonna get a live PO from you?
Yeah, right. Yeah, I can't imagine what that costs.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, the detail in it, the paintwork, it was amazing. It looked like something like it was real. Like I was holding a real Mythosaur skull. So you know, I started grabbing some of the other stuff that he had, and then you know, I'm never disappointed by the craftsmanship that you guys put into it. You know, even these maquettes like this thing. Like I just said off camera, that this was probably my favorite maquette that I've seen from you guys. And the Ray Yeez, I think is you pronounce it. This is
AKA Three Eyes, the very very creatively named Three Eyes.
So cool. I mean, the skin texture and everything
too. Like when we were doing our pictures of it, it was hard to get all the paint to show. Like he tends to just look like one color on camera.
It's not though.
I know. Yeah,
it's not.
There's so many layers on that. There's different browns and reds, and there's a green tone over his eyes and his chest and stuff, and gloss on his eyelids and his lips and his nostrils. Like they put a lot of work into those.
It's beautiful.
It
is. I love it.
Chris Wayless's incredible sculpt.
Yeah, talk to us about this line, because we're going to talk about the one in a little bit that you just revealed.
Yeah, sure.
He has two of these. I know they're super limited edition, and they are also autographed. So talk to us a little bit about them, if you don't mind.
When we first got collectibles, like I said, a big part of it was this idea of doing artifacts, of doing, you know, replicas of things that were important to the production. Not just, you know, in some prop replicas here and there, you know, and certainly characters and busts, but like the artifact side of it, to me, I thought was the most interesting. And the stuff that I've always liked is the what if stuff, you know, where you have the early version of a character. So in the case of these maquettes, what these are is during the production of Return of the Jedi, Phil Tippett and Chris Wayless and Dave Carson and Judy Elkins and Ken Ralston and Kirk Thatcher and Tom Sanamond and a whole bunch of other people sculpted up miniature versions of their ideas for the aliens for Jabba's palace. They didn't exist prior to this. Most of them didn't have sketches or anything like that. They were just things that they sculpted up on their own, just out of their imagination. And then George went through and picked all the ones he liked, and then they built those full size. And what's neat is from, you know, concept to creation, they change a little bit. Some of them were really close to the original, and some of them are a little more different. And for us, having access at the Lucasfilm archives, having worked with them on restoration and things like that, and of course having the license, gives us the ability to get hands-on with this stuff. And, you know, a lot of times, so lineage is a thing, right? Everybody knows about that in the collecting community. It's the word's used a lot. Lineage is super important on this stuff. Sometimes that can mean just being hands-on with the real thing and sculpting something side by side, because maybe that's the only way it can be done. Sometimes it's things like on our Chewbacca's, where it's this combination of lineage. We have digital lineage in that we scanned one of the original skins that had never gotten hair put on it so that we have the face right. We molded a set of original teeth that were still in good enough condition that they could safely be molded. And then we did hands-on examination for the bodysuit and the hair colors. And literally there's I wish we could share photos from this, but there's shots of me in the archives obsessing over the color of Chewbacca's hair. And you know, we would bring our mixed samples in. We would bring hair rings in with hundreds of colors, and we would go in and we'd say like, okay, it's this fiber, this fiber, this fiber. It's these 5 colors, and you put them together in this concentration, and that's the brown. And then it's these 5 colors, and that's the gray, you know, and that kind of stuff. And that's, you know, the level of obsession you get with us. But the the maquette line is kind of a really nice focused thing. Most of them at this point, it's funny thinking of the ones we've released, they're a nice mix. So you've got Weequay, Max Rebo, the concept Tauntaun busts, and the Rees that were all digitally scanned off of the originals, because those are small pieces that are already finished. We wouldn't be able to mold those without risking damage. So we digitally scan them in super high res. And that's how we were able to copy them wrinkle for wrinkle. The Tauntaun full figure and the Gamorrean from The Mandalorian Season 2 and the latest one, which we just released, are all out of original molds. Wow. And that was really fortunate. Phil had kept his 1980 mold for the concept Tauntaun sculpt. And this is now sold out. It was a signature edition we did with Phil, but just one of my favorite sculptures. And I will tell that to Phil all the time, and he's very uncomfortable from that. So that's why I like to tell him. But it's, that sort of thing where you can, like that Gamorrean there is right out of Tony McVeigh's original mold. So Tony, who sculpted Salacious Crumb for Return of the Jedi, also sculpted our Salacious Crumb for our run, because we're really lucky to know him and he's a good guy.
That was
brilliant
awesome.
Sculptor. He was responsible for a lot of the maquettes for The Mandalorian, and that Gamorrean, I was actually just looking at it with a customer today who had come to the shop to pick something up, and they had never seen it up close. And just the level of detail Tony put into that sculpt. If you look at that, especially on his back, all of the musculature around the ribs and the sense of weight and the rolls and creases and everything back there, it's a really, really stunning sculpt, especially at that scale. And to be able to work out of that original mold means that, you're getting wrinkle for wrinkle, scar for scar, all of that weight, look at those elbows.
I know.
He's got the sagging skin on the elbows there. And to do that on a 12-inch scale figure like that is impressive, because that's all handwork that Tony did. He is old school as it comes. So the idea on that line, though, is let's give people a chance to bring the archive home. They can't get to the archive, and they're never going to be able to, you can't go and get these maquettes and bring them home. Nobody's ever going to make this stuff. So let's just do it. And it's not, it's not something we could produce overseas and make 10,000 pieces each. So let's do them in runs of, 100 or 200 or 250 or something like that, depending on the character. Let's do signature editions where we can and try and bring in the original artists. And basically our whole goal is let's make this as special a line as we can. Let's make each one of these. Yeah, I got to tell you, Rees might be my favorite of the bunch.
Dude, that's awesome. And now these are all signature editions, right? That's why he's got those little packs there.
So yeah, the ones he's got are the Rees. Right now, the signature edition is sold through, but there is a numbered edition of that one still available. So if you missed the signature edition, you can pick up the numbered edition on that one. Rees was just a signature edition right now, and that one is sold out. There are more of those coming. On April 4th, we'll have our next Return of the Jedi maquette. Very excited for that one. They're actually, they're probably about halfway through casting on those already. We're trying to work a little ahead. In fact, I'll have to see, maybe I can post it into the group if we can get that okay. But I just, we managed to line up gaffy sticks and get a shot of most of those.
I wish I could have had that on display here. That thing is so big.
Yeah, you'd be intruding on the boxes next to you.
Yeah, man.
You'd stab Miguel oh no.
I know, right?
Oh,
dude,
man.
listen, so obviously George did a reel and a little review on the gaffy stick event. Dude, it's incredible, man. And the story behind it, I didn't even know that you guys actually, and let me know if I'm wrong or not, that was actually used on the show, the original one.
So we have two versions of it.
Right.
The A New Hope version is scanned off the original props. The Mandalorian version is the one the Tusken Raiders carried in the Mandalorian. It's in season 1, episode 5. It's in season 2, episode 1, and it's in background. Some of the background Tuskens in Boba Fett, pardon me, have it as well. But we actually made the Tatokias for the show. They needed them pretty quick. They knew we had a mold on that. So we originally were just going to do the A New Hope version, which is right there. And, you know, realizing, well, hey, we've got the molds for the one that, you know, we sent to the show. Like, why don't we make the Mandalorian version as well? And that way, if people miss out on the signature version, if they can't get the A New Hope, there's another option. And it's interesting because there's a bunch of people who bought that. And it's a lower price point, which is great. It's probably up at the top of the list if you're looking for the Mando one.
Oh, there it is.
But it's a lower price point. It's all resin, so it doesn't have the metal on the other end, which again, we're mimicking how the real props were made. The A New Hope had metal ends, and the other one was all resin. And it just is one of these things where, like, well, why not give people the option? Let's do both. And it's worked out pretty nicely. It's actually, we've had a few people who got the Mandalorian, not because they couldn't get the other one, because that's the one they wanted. So that's neat too.
That's cool.
And
got a question.
This comes with a stand too and everything.
Yes. Yeah. They all have, so both versions of that come with, it's a basic black stand. It's a no tool assembly. It just ships as a flat upright. You put two cradles in. They come with, let's see here. There's a certificate of authenticity. There's an instruction sheet, and a relatively large box with a lot of layers of foam.
Yeah.
Nice. You had a question, George?
That's awesome.
Yeah, because I really like the concept designs of these. I know you'd like to stick to the creatures, but you do props as well. Any thought on doing like the concepts of like the ships? You know, like maybe like a concept Falcon,
the Colin Cantwell stuff.
Or that would be awesome.
I love that stuff. So right now, I mean, this is so there's also, you know, we'll get into some inside pool here, right? It's licenses, everything we do, everything we put out. You know, we often say on the website, we have partnered with Lucasfilm to do this. And that's 100% true. So everything that we do, whether it's, you know, the wording on the web page, the packaging, the edition size, the pricing, all of this stuff comes from that partnership with Lucasfilm and Disney. And we all work together on all of this stuff. When it comes to what we're able to do within the license, that's also within that. Ships have an interesting sort of niche in the licensing world. Right now, EFX has the rights to studio scale models. I don't know exactly where pre-production models would fit. There's an argument that could be made that they'd be artifacts and they would fit in what we do. But we're also really mindful of other folks' rights and what they pay for, and we want to make sure that we're respectful of that. I don't know that we would dive into ships and models anytime soon. But it's certainly stuff that fascinates me, and in particular, in that pre-production style, and especially, like I said, the Colin Cantwell stuff is just so great. One of my all-time favorite ships is the bubble canopy Y-wing that he did. I absolutely love that. I love the prototype land speeder, that really weird sort of circular shape thing, that rust tones. And the early Sandcrawler he did is just, that's a stunner. I would love to make that.
That's
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, we have a bunch of questions
Sure.
in the chat. But before I get to it, I kind of wanted to pick Josh's brain. So Josh, obviously, statue collector, loves statues. What do you think about the statues and the likeness to what Regal Robot has?
I think it's incredible. I think it's awesome that you're able to make it 100% authentic and screen accurate. It kind of makes me wish that you guys are more in the Marvel realm or DC realm of things, because I think you guys can absolutely kill in that field. Is that something y'all have ever thought about tackling, or are y'all just sticking with like Star Wars and creatures and whatnot?
You know, for now, we're pretty good where we are. We have Indiana Jones coming up, starting on April 10th.
I'm looking forward to that.
And I will say right now, you know, we're a tiny, tiny shop. There's, you know, when people get like that reuse run, there were probably 3 or 4 people kind of working on that in the studio on the whole run. You know, so this didn't go through some factory somewhere. These aren't machine painted. You know, I remember my wife at Celebration, somebody was asking her about, you know, why is this so expensive? And she literally like pulled Maria was next to her, and Maria does a lot of painting, and she just like pulled her in. She's like, "This is Maria. Maria painted it. We like to pay her a wage." And I was like, "Oh, all right, thanks, Maria." You know, it's like these are real folks that are sitting there putting real time into every one of these pieces, and it's a ton of handwork all the time.
Yeah.
So because of that, though, we're always kind of running at capacity, and we keep crewing up. We're growing a little by little. You know, the day will come where we expand beyond Star Wars and indie. I'm sure of it. But we'll do it our way, and we will maintain the level of authenticity that, you know, is what folks know us for. And I look forward to it. We have no shortage of ideas, whether that's for Star Wars or beyond. Rob and I at the shop, you probably hear us, anybody who's ever tuned into one of our live streams on Facebook, they're on our YouTube channel as well. If you go to Regal Robot on YouTube, you know, you hear us laughing a lot in those live streams. We connect in a real special way, and we are both, you know, slightly demented in the same way as nerds, I think. But you know, we just, between Rob, myself, Richard Riley, some of the other folks that work with us, the ideas just keep going. And it's like, oh, you know, it'd be cool. Oh, no, it'd be even cooler if we did this. Or, oh, what if we did that? And it's just, and then we kind of all go like, all right, we got too much to do. We can't do that right now. But that's a great idea. Write it down, you know?
No, I can only imagine though, like based off everything you've like, I'm learning tonight and everything I see behind you, I think you guys would kill it as far as props for like the Marvel and DC realm, like with Mjolnir, Cap Shield, just like doing like the nice signature editions. If you're able to get like the actual artists, people who make that'd be really cool.
Yeah. The folks, I love including the makers. I think that's an overlooked aspect of, you know, the of the collectibles world. You know, there's a lot given to the stars and the actors and things like that. But wherever we're able to bring those makers in, and then I don't know if any of you guys tune in, but we also try and, whenever we're doing one of these editions,
with the interviews,
have a chat. Yeah.
And I love those. Those are great. Because I learned a lot through that. And what's cool is that a lot of these creators, I wasn't even aware of them until I started watching your streams, right? So it's like, man, this is amazing. You know, I love hearing the journey, and it's inspiring, and it also, like, I learned something in the process. I'm just like, oh, this is kind of cool. Learn how to make something.
And it's like sometimes I'll be having these chats with people I've known for a while too, where, you know, I'm lucky to know a lot of these guys, and it's like, you know, once you hit record, you kind of pull different stuff out of people sometimes, and you don't know where that chat's going. But anybody who's curious. So, you know, when we do these editions, I think there have been ones with a couple with Phil Tippett, Chris Wayless, Roger Christian, who is a big prop maker for the first Star Wars. You have John Berg and Dennis Murin and Phil Tippett when we did the Hollow Chess. You know, we've got these nice long chats with them. If you go to Tom Spina Designs on YouTube, you can see the really long versions, usually like an hour of us yammering on. And if you want the more Star Wars specific ones, go to the Regal Robot YouTube, and there's, you know, interviews with all these guys, and it's so cool to just hear their stories. And, you know, okay, so the maquette is the, you know, what if the behind the scenes of the character, and then like the person is the behind the scenes of the maquette, you know? And it's just layers of history, and so cool to hear what they have to say. And like, we are all lucky that these guys, not only that they're around, guys and girls, but that they have a passion for what they did. You meet so many people who work in the film industry who get jaded, or who don't want to talk about the thing everybody wants to talk about. They're like, everybody asks me about Return of the Jedi. Can't we talk about such and such? And these guys, I don't know if they're just humoring me or something, but they're always so open. They're always so willing to dive into it. And I really enjoy when we can explore process with them, and we can explore their path and how did they get there? What inspired that? Why did you do this? Why is there hair on this? Why is this, that kind of things, that sort of thing. So, yeah, I mean, it's just, to me, it's so cool that we're able to do that. And it makes me feel good that folks enjoy it.
Dude, that's awesome. But so real quick, so we got Tom Spina Designs on YouTube. We got obviously Regal Robot, and say it one more time for the Facebook group.
It's the Regal Robot Fans and Collectors Showcase.
All right, cool. So for everybody who's in my group, I'm going to go ahead and find it. Obviously, I'm going to get it as well. And then I'm going to drop that link in our Facebook group as well. So that way, and I'll actually have it in the bio of this video when we're done
awesome.
as well. So you guys could jump in there. Let's get him to 1,000 at least in there, right?
Yeah. And then whoever's in there when we're at 1,000, you got a chance at a gift certificate. So
let's go.
What you see, awesome. There's a way to get something on the cheap.
Yo,
hey, Tom.
Yeah.
Given the success of the Gaffy stick, Luke is asking the question about this. Do you foresee any more props coming on the horizon?
We have ideas for a few.
Okay.
And the Gaffy is definitely a success, certainly in terms of sales. How quickly that A New Hope edition sold out. There's some limitations on the prop side because EFX does have the props license. So it's one of these things where as long as we're treading in space where they don't have an interest or that's not something that they're going to pursue, I don't know if any of you guys ever got to meet Brian Ono, who used to run EFX. He just passed away last year. Yeah. Really super, super guy. I know regardless of how anybody feels about the company or that kind of stuff, he was somebody who really supported other folks coming up in the business. He wasn't the type to pull the ladder up behind him. He always lent a hand to us, and I owe him so much. And what was great about that though was having a nice relationship with him allowed us to talk about stuff and to just go like, hey, we were thinking about doing this and a Gaffy stick. Is there any of this that pushes into territory you're working in already? And he's, and we would just be able to hash that stuff out real easy. I'm in touch with, the new folks over there. They're great. I love, already they're sort of, you can see they're starting to deliver on a bunch of stuff now, which is outstanding. And it's exciting to see, maybe a little more activity there. And I'm really curious to see what becomes of the company because I think the potential is so great. And the history is really great for that too. And just some of the stuff they've done. So will anything else prop wise, we'll continue to talk with them. We'll continue to work with Lucasfilm. And, we, like I said, no shortage of ideas. So, we'll see what we get to. Right now, the big thing for us is we have been working ahead on the maquette line quite extensively. So there's a lot more of those in the works. We've already got signatures on a few of them. And we've already got production started on, we've got 3 in production at the moment. And one of which was the one that just went up for sale. One will go up April 4th. And we don't have a firm date on the next one yet. And then we've got
maybe May the 4th.
What was that?
Maybe May the 4th. Just
so here's the thing. I would love to see, and maybe if this needs to be a conversation in the Facebook group or a poll or something, I'd be curious to see how, what pace our customers want those maquettes to come out.
Dude, that's a great question.
That's great.
Yeah,
that's
I don't want to overwhelm folks. But
I think
I
it's
also
gonna
want
space
to
them
go
out
so slow that they start to lose interest or spend money elsewhere. Like I feel like once a month to me maybe feels fast, but if that's what people are into, then maybe that's something we look at, the Maquette of the Month Club.
Dude, that is a great question. I think you should definitely do that. I mean, it's gonna depend. I mean, now that the hobby's changing so much, but at the same time, you have your own kind of like group of following and niche that people are like used to. So that's a great question to put up as a poll. I mean,
our fan base, our customer base is man, those clients, they are very loyal and very supportive. And I think they get what we're trying to do, you know, and it's interesting. I mean, we keep dancing around the Baby Yoda, but I'm gonna drift into that because I think this is actually a good segue.
You want to?
Sure, yeah, no, it's fine.
Right,
it's out there.
No, let's do it. Let's do it.
That's a piece that I think is starting to show us where some folks get us and some folks don't, because we've had a few people who looked at it and thought like, oh, we just did a bad sculpt of Baby Yoda. You know,
no, I did. It drove me nuts.
That drove me nuts.
Wait, you know what's funny is that when I first saw the Jabba the Hutt maquette,
yes,
I had that feeling about it the first time I saw it. I didn't really understand what it was, and then I had to like look into it real quick, and I was like, oh, wait a minute, this is a maquette, this is a concept, this is different. You know,
but Phil Tippett holding it in the documentary, you know, and it's like, to me, that like to hold something in your hand that Phil held and showed the screen, like that's another connection. So yeah, this is based on Tony McVeigh, who we were discussing earlier, sculptor of Salacious Crumb for Return of the Jedi, the Man in Suit Rancor that they tried to do. I think he worked on Size Snoodles, a whole bunch of other stuff. This is his concept sculpture of the baby. And he is always fast to credit Christian Alsman, who did, and if you can zoom in on this one, if you can hit the plus sign up there in the corner of the image and blow that guy up.
Oh, where was that the whole time?
It was right there, a little magnifying glass.
Yeah.
See, this is why folks watch. Now they learn how to use the website.
Yeah.
So the little picture we include with this, there's a nice 5x7 print. That is Christian Alsman's original sketch for Baby Yoda, the thing that got the character approved. And that was sent to Tony, who then interpreted it as a 3-dimensional sculpture by hand. And we were very lucky that the original molds still existed and we had access to them, and we were able to master our piece from that. And Tony had taken excellent color photographs of for reference of his sculpture that he had painted and sent to production. And that's what we got to use to do the paint on this one. And then we have the dual signature edition where we brought in, because again, Tony won't talk about this without crediting Christian. It's so good of him. And so when we did the plaque on this, we had to do both of them. You know, we couldn't just do Tony. It felt wrong to have one but not the other.
Dude, awesome. I think it's cool.
That's awesome.
Obviously, you guys went ahead and announced that during the launch of the new season of The Mandalorian.
Yeah.
Smart timing.
So it's definitely cool. Listen, you know, and it's funny because you just mentioned that, and obviously we talk about on our lives and different lives, we talk about different things that come out, and I've seen the conversations people had about this piece, and I don't think some of them got it, and the others obviously defended it and understood what it was. But something that Dr. Mike said, and that he said on his show, and I think this is true to what you guys have. Like, this is a piece of history, right? Like all the things that you have are a piece of history, right? It's a true collectible. It's not like these other companies, and no offense to them, where they're throwing out something, you know, for a couple $100 or $1,000 with a mass production of like 5,000 ES. These are very limited. This is something that's going to grow in value exponentially. And obviously it's a one-of-a-kind thing that you're not going to find anywhere else. And I think people either understand that or need to understand it. Right. And I just think like little things like this, little small things like this, I just appreciate so much because of everything you just said, the work that got put into it, the fact that it's like something so limited and rare. It's not something that everybody's going to have.
And they're all hand painted. They're all hand cast.
Right.
You know, they're not, it's funny, you know, the guy, you'll have somebody back there with a mold. They're not making 100 castings a day. You know, you're lucky if they're getting into the teens out of a single mold, not even. You know, so we'll have a few molds going, but it's just, there's, you know, it's not like you ever walk in and there's a conveyor belt going of these things. And it's important for us to keep them special. it is history. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just that simple. And that's not a salesy thing.
No,
That's
it's not.
just
It's
what
not.
it is.
Facts.
But it's like what you said at the beginning.
It's facts. Yeah.
And it was the only way that we could do a collectible of the character, right? Like, you know, there's plenty of companies out there that can do an action figure, plenty of companies that can do a life-size doll, plenty of companies that can do a life-size figure that could be very high-end, that are beautiful, that are super realistic and amazing for the price point, but they're mass-produced and wider, yes, whatever. Great for certain people. Those aren't necessarily for every collector, though.
Right.
And I wanted to do, I'm like, if we're going to do anything with this baby, it's got to be something that scratches a different itch. You know, it has to be something that feels like a prop, that feels like a connection to the production of this show, that feels like a part of the history of the creation of this character that is now so huge that you can have all the toys and plush and everything else. But the collector that wants this, a plush doll isn't going to do it for him, right? Like, that's not what you're going to get. So it felt like this is us. You know, and as soon as we knew Tony still had that mold, we were like, this is the us way to do Baby Yoda. This is the Regal Robot version of Grogu. Has to be the thing that relates to the history of the character and gives people that piece of history. And I'm just glad we hit on it. We actually, this is something that's been in the works for a few years.
Wow.
You know, you talk about that partnership and release dates and things like that. Sometimes, you know, things don't always get out at the speed we like, but I'm so excited we finally got it out. I'm really excited that it's selling well. It is still definitely going to be a small edition. Probably similar kind of numbers to our other ones. But it is moving better than expected. And, you know, so for anybody who doesn't know, most of the time we announce the edition size right up front. For this one, the partnership kind of came up with the idea of, you know, we didn't know how many people this was a fit for, right? Like, so we didn't want to make it too big to where it was more than it needed to be. And we didn't want to make it so small that we accidentally shut a bunch of people out. You know, we have sellouts. We have we've had stuff that sold out in 7 minutes. We've had stuff that sells out in 25 minutes. We've had stuff that sells out in a few days. I think Ree's, the last maquette that came out, sold out in 7 hours.
Yes.
That's too short, ultimately, right? Like, it's nice. It makes the thing feel valuable, but there were a lot of people that missed out. And so for us, we're always working on this. We want to make sure that we are getting the right number out there so that all the people that really want them can get them, but also that it's still small enough that it's special, and honestly, small enough that we can make it, because we do all this stuff by hand, and I can't have them working on Baby Yodas for the next 2 years. We got other stuff to do. So the edition size will be announced on March 15th. We are going to, at that point, look at all the sales to that point, look at what our retailers have sold, because there's like Big Bad Toy Store and Secret Compass and Collector Agency and some others that are carrying it. And once we know what that looks like, we'll set the edition size probably a little bigger than whatever we've sold. And then we'll tell folks, okay, you know, it's March 15th. There are 50 left, or there are 25 left. And, you know, then it becomes a little more of a countdown. And then it gets a little more traditional there. Maybe it's a little more sales pressure when that happens. But, you know, if you want to get it and get an earlier number and not have to worry about, oh, gosh, they just announced there's 25 left and everybody's going to try and buy it.
And obviously,
you know,
you do
go
payment
now
plans
and
as
grab
well.
it. You know?
Right, Tom? You do payment plans as well. I saw on the site.
Exactly. Yeah, and they're adjustable. So it's like if you say, oh, you know, $500 or whatever, then maybe I want to do that over 6 months and it's less than $100 a month. Or maybe you go, you know what? I can do that in 2 months and that'll be paid off, and they'll probably be shipping in about 2 months. So honestly, for people who paid in full, I wouldn't be surprised. Let's see. Well, we've already got a bunch of them painted, but the wood bases actually take longer to get in some cases. So basically, as soon as those wood bases and the foam inserts come in, that's when they'll start shipping out. But at the moment, they're pumping away on making them and hand painting them. So really, by the time those bases come in, which my guess would be maybe a month and a half, they'll start going right out. So if you're somebody who paid in full, or we'll even do, so Katie likes to do this at the shop. She's one of the customer service for Regal. She will, once we start actually getting something to where we can move it out, foam inserts come in, the COAs come in, the boxes in, the labels are in, all of these moving little parts. They start hand packing all of these things up, and she'll look at how many we have. We'll ship everybody who's paid in full. What do we have left over? So let me go down the list and say, hey, you've got a payment plan that ends in a couple of months, but if you want to pay early, I can ship it now. And, a lot of times people will take advantage of it. Like, oh, all right. I put it on payment plan because I thought it would take longer. So if you're somebody who does pre-order from us and you have payment plans, and if you see things are starting to ship out, you can always reach out to us. You can always pay early. And, basically we take it in the order that people are paid in full, and that's when we start getting them out.
All right.
Cool.
So if I understand correctly, that is the child, the Grogu, that's basically what was used to pitch the concept of the character. That's why it looks a little different, if I'm understanding correctly.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
And it was
cool.
What was sent to Stan Winston's Legacy Studios to use as their reference in building the final one. So this was
that's really cool.
This was what got the character approved and okayed.
Actually, it would be kind of a nice companion for the Sideshow one, since the Sideshow one was made by Legacy also.
Yeah.
Are you going to pick this up, George?
Huh?
Are you picking this one up?
I'm tempted now.
Miguel used to do it. Miguel used to do it.
Okay.
I know. Listen, they're trying to get me to do it. I might do it as well because I think it's really
YPL.
Listen,
it is one of those things that
It'll go perfect with your life-size bust.
I think it looks cool with the life size. Because it's a good size, but it's obviously, not even half scale, I would guess, of the life size. The life size, what, about 12, 14 inches or something?
How do I explain that to my
7
kids?
inches.
How do I explain it to my kids? It's the baby Yoda.
The baby. Yeah, exactly.
That's what I mean.
What's really cool about this, the sculpt on it, it's weirdly a little less alien and a little, it's weird. In some light, it looks cuter, and in some light, it looks like a little old man. And sometimes a little old man could be cute too. That's fine. But it has a very Stuart Freeborn look about it.
Well, I mean, the Ralph McQuarrie Yoda has got a very freaky kind of look too.
Yeah. And so clearly there's some pull from that, but like there's something I think in the mouth area in particular, and that the eyes are a tiny bit smaller than the final. I feel like his mouth and pouchy cheeks are just a little cuter on this one than the real one. But it's a cool piece, and I think it is a cool companion because it's different. It's not like I think it would be weird to put like the Hot Toys and the Sideshow side by side in a collection. They're both so good, they're both so similar. I probably would never put those next to each other, but these feel so different, and they feel like two sides of the story,
Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
Dude, I love it. Listen, let me get to the chat's questions because I promised them that. And then I want to get to Connor and Dennis because Dennis got a couple things too. So the first question, well, we already answered that one. This is popular though, man. I'm not gonna lie. This is very popular.
Well, nobody's doing the ships at the moment is the thing. It's like we're not getting licensed ships being produced out there at the moment.
I know. Jump on it, Tom. Jump on it. Anyway, all right. So this question, and keep in mind, so we have a lot of 6 scale community here. We got a lot of statue community, so you're gonna get some mixed questions. But question for Tom: in the season of reissues and 2.0 products, how do you feel of possibly going into the field of premium screen accurate lightsabers? For many of us, was ahead of our time.
Yeah,
master replicas.
I think that's another one that's really squarely in EFX's license. Probably not something we would push into unless something drastically changed license-wise. Kind of in the just going like thinking out loud in the terms of artifacts and archive collection kind of vibe of it. Is there some element of it that could be pulled out and made into a thing? I don't know. That would be, I feel like that would be a somewhat tricky one on the licensing side, but it's a cool question. And I mean, I love that stuff. George, hearing you talk about the making the first Luke saber and stuff. Were you using a Graflex when you did yours? Or did you do like a
No, I was doing I should have mentioned which one, the Return of the Jedi. So
nice.
Yeah. So we my dad had a mill. So we milled the aluminum and we built one, and that was, it was awesome. It was a hell of an experience.
I made a Return of the Jedi. This is, way back when, out of fender washers stacked up with like rubber washers in between them to be the ribbed handle. And like pieces of sink pipe and sink handles and all kinds of whatever I could find. It was just a hardware saber, But I made a Luke, A New Hope. I originally made one out of like a sink pipe, and then eventually I did get a Graflex.
Yeah.
Back when you could get them for like $100.
Right. This one's a great.
There's something so cool about
this is one that I built.
So
wow,
good.
that's very cool.
Hold on, let me put you on the big screen real quick.
Love it.
But
First
it was
movie style clip.
I love this thing.
Yeah.
It's perfect. Good size in my hand and everything.
Yeah. It's one of those things where you pick it up and you just go, oh, that's why Roger Christian said this was the prop, because it's just before you've even modified it, it's just like, yep, there it
looks
is.
like
That's
exactly.
That's amazing.
It's such an easy thing to put together once you get all the pieces. But
nice.
Yeah.
All right, so here we go. Are there other one-on-one offerings like the Jawa that's not offered on the site?
Yeah, so there's a specific reason the Jawa isn't offered on the site. So we did a run of them as a custom thing. We had a customer who had asked about getting a couple of them custom, and at the same time, a few other people asked us, and so we did those. And then the source for the fabric was out for a long time.
Wow.
We've actually, while we were having the fabric milled or woven for our Tusken Raider head wraps, we had the same factory doing the robe fabric for Tusken Raiders, which is the same fabric for Jawas. So we actually had a few rolls of fabric made up in Jawa color, and they nailed the color. It's so good. So there may be a day where those wind up on the site. That's also a licensing thing. It's also a money thing. The way we do the stuff, they wind up, they're not cheap to produce. And with all the licensing stuff on the other side, the end result comes up a little higher than I want them to. But, we're going to keep looking at them. I think now that the fabric is kind of back in the mix, it wouldn't surprise me if we wind up getting those on the site sometime. As for other stuff, there's not a lot else that we've done that we haven't put on. The two other things that I can think of were both custom versions of Chewbacca that we did. We had one.
Hold on, let me pull that up because that's my favorite, and I believe Dr. Mike has one of these. I think it's the life size.
I would love to have that Chewbacca. That Chewbacca's definitely one. That's like a bucket list item I want to get.
Yeah, he had the bust, but he sent it to.
We do the ones where they're resin heads with glued on hair, which is actually, the resin is different than the real ones, but the glued on hair is actually what Stuart did for the real Chewbaccas. Everybody assumes that they're hand punched hair, but the hair on them is actually glued. If you go to the other bust where it's got the shoulders, I feel like the pictures just took better of that one. It's the same exact head as that first one, but there's something in the photography on the new the
one with this model next to him.
Yeah, that's right.
That's the one.
Ugly hairy beast. Oh, and Chewbacca. It's so these are all a resin head with glued on hair, again, just the way Stuart did it. But we've had a couple people have asked us, could we do one where it has a mechanical mouth? And so we've made silicone hand punched hair with the mechanics underneath that are just like the masks. And we had gotten to do Chewbacca's for Lucasfilm for tour suits in the mid 2010s. And so we had gotten to examine the real suits. We got to examine the tour suits, and we reverse engineered Stewart's methods, but with modern materials. So using things like fiberglass instead of foam, and silicone instead of foam latex, and cables with metal toggles rather than dental acrylic and string. But so we kept the movement the same, we kept the mechanism the same, but we updated the materials. What you're seeing there are static resin heads, but the things that we have that we haven't put on the site are these mechanical ones where they're silicone, and it has like a bite grip kind of handle and a cable, and basically you squeeze it and the head tilts back on a little bit of an angle. It tilts to the side, tilts to the back, the mouth opens, the lips snarl.
That sounds amazing.
Wow.
It's really cool.
Amazing.
It's unfortunately a ton of work, and that's actually the reason it's not on the site.
Can imagine.
Because it's just, it's the sort of thing that I don't think people would necessarily understand either the price point or the time involved, or and if someone came up and we got an order for 10 of those, it would probably be a little too much for the shop right now. It's just, there's so much going at all times. We've actually got a few of these life-size guys going right now.
So I think Dr. Mike, I can't remember which one Dr. Mike said he has on order. He talks about it all the time. I don't know if it's the bust or the life-size. He's got one. I swear he's got a mini.
It's the life size. He sold his bust to John.
There you go.
To get the life size.
But yeah,
that's insane,
these are really, really cool to see in person. It's so hard to photograph this guy. I mean, especially like Giovanna there is like 5'1".
Yeah.
And so like it's really hard to get both of them in the picture, but it's one of these things where I think I've seen it even with, sometimes fans get a better picture of stuff than we do. It seems like even with the best lighting setup and all of that stuff, it's tough to capture this, and it's really tough to capture how he feels in person. It's one thing to see a picture of a big creature, but another to go, there's a 7.5 foot tall furry beast in front of me. It's kind of crazy,
That's awesome.
Wow,
Dude, it looks neat, and Chewbacca's my favorite too. So this is freaking awesome, man.
Thank you.
You ever thought about doing the concept versions of this character, like the Macquarie?
It's funny. Years and years ago, I sculpted. So that one concept that looks a little like a lemur.
Yeah.
And it wound up, I guess, in Rebels, they based one of the characters off that design.
Right.
There was a character in the role-playing game called Puggles Trod that was based on that same look. It was basically Concept Chewie, but only like 3 feet tall. And so someone asked me to sculpt that for them and make them a full size of it. This is, mid to late 90s, I guess. And so I had actually sculpted that head once before. It was really neat. I love that design. I think that would be a really cool one for one of these editions someday. I don't know how broad an edition that could be, but it would be really neat. We actually, it's funny, we did a commercial for Samantha Bee used to have a show on TBS, and when the show debuted, she did a knockoff of the cantina scene where she came in and accidentally lit a lightsaber and started cutting people to pieces by, like, oops. And so we did a bunch of aliens for that, and it was really last minute. It was like a few days. And so we only could work with molds we already had. So what we wound up doing was we took a Duros mask and modified that up to look kind of like a biker. We took the Don Rickles alien, the guy with the one horn on his head. Oh, he's over my shoulder.
Yeah.
Where is he?
Hold on, let me.
I can't point in the right direction. Here we go. That guy. We took him and painted him up like a tree frog with like green and black and white spots and stuff, and put a light bulb on his head instead of a horn. And we took that Puggles Trod pre-pro Chewie and painted him red with dark hair and gave him these weird eyes. And it was a really cool little way to squeeze that into something. And it was like, okay, we can't use real Star Wars stuff, so we got to do stuff that's just off to the side. And then, of course, they shot the whole commercial, and our guys are barely in it. I think the one mask that gets a really good close-up was we threw it in just as an extra. We took a cheap gas mask off of Amazon, dirtied it up, and put some nails in it, like Pinhead. And the director was like, "That's the one. Give him a close-up." What are you doing? Like, no.
Don't you hate that as an artist though? Like you put so much work into all the other stuff, and the one that's the fast job is the one that people are on.
So if you see the original version of Star Wars where you have the brown Wolfman mask in Star Wars, and then there's the gray kind of bat demon with the red eyes, which they never should have removed. He's awesome. But that Wolfman was something Rick Baker made in 1973 and would sell as a Halloween mask. Like a little $25 mask or something like that. And he just put it in there for them to put in the background just to fill space. And sure enough, there it is right in front of the camera. And it's rare to hear an effects guy happy that they covered up his work, but he was so thrilled when they covered that up.
Dude, listen, I absolutely love some of this stuff that you got on here. It's incredible. And like, the questions that are popping up are like, I have all the same questions too. It's funny. So I think we touched a little bit on this one. So sabers, blasters kind of falls in the same category as the sabers, right?
Yep. Yeah, that's all hand props. Yeah, that would be EFX.
So here we go. So would you ever open to make a Millennium Falcon cockpit table or desk?
That would be awesome. Yeah, I mean, a lot of times those custom desks, the really crazy stuff, that is truly custom. That is not a spec piece. That someone comes to us and says, "Hey, design me something for this space." And then we go, "Okay, well, what are you into?" And they'll say, "Well, I guess I like Star Wars." And we go, "Okay, let's get more specific. Who's your favorite character? What's your favorite location? What's your favorite ship? What's your favorite scene?" And we just go down the line, and then we pitch them a whole bunch of different ideas. And then usually we wind up finding a few of them that everybody's excited about, nail down which one we're going to build, and then go for it. So if someone came to us and said, "Hey, here's my space, here's my budget, here's the movie that I like, or I love the Millennium Falcon in the cockpit, and I'd love to do something with that," we can definitely look at it as a custom thing.
Do you say with that concept to someone in the shop, or is it just one-time pop?
It really depends on what we're doing. There's times where we'll make stuff like that makes sense to be more of an addition. Maybe you open yourself up to do a few of them or something like that. But a lot of times the amount of work that goes into these things as a custom build, it winds up being cost prohibitive to be a regular edition piece. And it also, the specificity sometimes, that Darth Vader desk where it looks like his meditation chamber, dude, it's super cool, but it was made to really specifically fit in this woman's tattoo shop and be this specific type of space for her. And it's great because it got a lot of internet clicks and everybody loved it and it was kind of flashy, but it's not the most practical desk. Even the Han Carbonite desk isn't the most practical thing in the world.
That thing looks dope.
Everybody loves it. Everybody wants it, but it's, it's the sort of thing where when we're doing the editions, I like the stuff like the Emperor thrones where they, or the Cantina chairs where they're really functional and they can fit in a lot of different types of spaces. But this was a ton of fun. And this wasn't even, she came to us with the space and the budget and with a few ideas, but this wasn't her idea. This wasn't even our idea at first. It grew out of us sketching up a whole bunch of different things. And Rich Riley, who's just a genius that works with us, going like, "Well, would it be cool?" And just trying a bunch of stuff. And
isn't that his thing? Like, isn't that his thing? Like, wouldn't it be a good idea?
Yeah, wouldn't it be cool, man? That's Rich. The thing with Rich though is a lot of times he'll say, it'd be cool after we're done with something, and then we have to go back and do it because he's right. It's like, that would be cool. Damn it, now we got to do everything over.
How about a Millennium Falcon pilot chair or jump seat chair as an office chair?
So very, very high on my list. Something we've been looking at, I would say, for as far back as I can remember on the furniture side. There are some issues with getting it produced to the level that we want and getting it in at a price that makes sense to make a run out of it. if somebody came in with an unlimited budget and just, had to have it, yeah, we can custom make anything. But, to do something where it is repeatable and
unlimited budget
doesn't come up too high, that's a different story.
Gotcha. So here's
I'm trying to win the lottery, so it's a goal.
I know, right?
I come in with a limited budget.
Here's another question that kind of is similar to what we're talking about now.
Yes.
If there's a new furniture piece with an incorporated model ship, what ship would actually be the piece of furniture y'all would like to see? So if I guess he's asking, asking what what we would like to see as far as furniture goes. But I think George had a good one. It's pretty dope. All right, let's see what else we got here. True 16 Rancor. This guy. Let's see. Anything could be done in regards to Ralph concepts.
There are some licensing limitations with using certain names and things like that, but we can draw inspiration from the stuff that's on screen, the stuff that was behind the scenes, and the stuff that's in the making of books and stuff like that. Ralph's stuff is squarely in that. We've actually, if you go to the archive collection page there, share a picture of the board. If you go to the collectibles page, if you hit the shop link and then go to the busts and replicas. Oh, there you go. Yeah. If you scroll down, we did an interpretation of Ralph's sketch for Bib Fortuna a while ago, a life-size bust that was wild. So it's way down. It's past all the sold-out stuff because it was custom. Let's see. There it is on the left.
Oh, so yeah. Oh.
That's based on Ralph's earliest sketches for Bib Fortuna.
Yeah, that's
wow.
And it's a really and to look at it, it's Ralph immediately from the style of that, right? And then even on the pedestal, we have Ralph's. We took inspiration from Ralph's drawings of Jabba's palace and the turrets and the type of writing around the perimeter. That's all Ralph lettering there. But this is something that was sculpted by myself and Casey Wong and Samantha Martino at the shop. There's Casey working on the head sculpt. It's got custom glass eyes in it. It's translucent resin that I painted up. It's got a fabricated bib and a giant hat.
Oh my God.
Wow.
Veins in his eyes and musculature underneath and all of that. This was a really fun one.
That's so cool.
Awesome.
It's insane. Oh my God. Look at that.
But this is where the passion of the customer comes in, because there's a perfect example. This is not an edition piece, right? This isn't even something you could probably do 5 of. So it's you get someone that comes in that just says, hey, this is my screensaver. It's my favorite sketch that Ralph McQuarrie ever did. Do you think you could make it into a life-size thing? And to me, that's just like, well, that's just the coolest email I've ever gotten. Let's do this.
That's crazy. Here's another one. Given you're so close to the ILM Lucas crew, would you ever be open to making original logo signs for each or one of the companies?
I think he did do something like that.
Interesting.
Isn't that kind of like your wood plaques that you did recently?
Yeah, or maybe even the metal signs that we're doing now, which are relatively new on the decor page there. The license that we have covers Star Wars IP, not necessarily Lucasfilm or ILM. So that would be a different ask on the licensing side of things.
Okay.
But that's a really cool idea. It would probably be legitimately a separate contract. And I don't know if Disney would ever license Lucasfilm's own logos. But it's an interesting idea. I've never even thought of it.
Now, while we're here, I want to touch a little bit on these magnets, because I know I know last year Dennis was trying to get me to get the New York Comic Con exclusive one. I think it was, right, Dennis?
Yeah, it was this one.
Oh,
Yeah, that was dope. I like that one.
Yeah, that was at the Melted Vader. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice stand too.
Dude,
Yeah,
that's
that was
cool.
an awesome one. I was really, it was our first sequel piece too, really, now that I'm thinking about it. And it's like, out of all the things in the sequel, you know, that maybe Kylo's helmet is another one that's up there for me. I mean, with this stuff, like I said, no shortage of ideas, right? Like, as soon as we start diving into any of them, we're always like, oh, well, if we ever did something from that, maybe we would just do this from the movie. And then sure enough, somebody has to say, like, oh, well, what about Kylo's helmet? Oh, yeah, that's pretty cool. Oh, you know, his saber was neat too. Yeah, you know what, that was. And then it's just boom, 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 boom. And all of a sudden it's like, okay, now we've got to make everything. You know?
Jason had a good question.
Go ahead, shoot.
No, Jason had a good one right there. He said, will you dip into items that include actor likenesses, busts, etc.?
Good question. I think right now there's enough creature stuff to keep us busy for a really long time before we would push into that. I would also say that, you know, some of the best sculptors in the world have tackled some of those likenesses already, to varying degrees, and you know, consistent human likeness is a tricky thing. It's certainly something we've done plenty of with the other company for years, and for different people and characters and things like that. I would never rule it out, but I think it'd be a tricky one. I think also, you know, hairstyling is a trick. We're noticing, like, even with the Chewies, we have to really encourage people to get in there and style your Chewies. Like, if you got a Chewie from us, it's gonna have plastic bag head when you get them. You know, you gotta fluff them up, like,
to get back.
Really rough.
I see that with the Queen Studio statues. You see them, and it's like the hair really can mess it up.
I know, yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, that's definitely a concern too. But you know, like I said, yeah, never rule it out. Right now, I feel like if I started doing humans before we did Cantina aliens, that, like, I feel like that's a disservice. So, like, let's get through a bunch of creatures first.
All right.
You Tom, this is like super geeky time. I mean, you speak so much of your stories and with that passion, and at this time you still geek out when you see like famous people and big companies. What would be like the piece that you're more proud of, and which is the time that you geeked out and you stayed hush, and then when the meeting ended, you said yes?
Yeah,
that's a good question.
Ooh, okay. So in terms of like just a favorite piece that we've done, that's tough. Let's see here. I
the one that you see it and you say, this is it.
You know what? The hollow chest set. And it's tough. It's really tough to pick a favorite because
hold on.
If you see our live stream, like in the cabinet behind us, like me and Rob, is a lot of our maquettes and the hollow chest stuff and things like that. And they're not there to show off because they're our work. They're there because they're our collectibles and we love them. Like as a collector, that's my set, you know? So all of this stuff is really special to me. The gaffy stick probably feels the most like the real thing because it's the same material, the same heft, the same weight. But the hollow chest set is something
I love this.
I never thought we were going to be able to do. It was initially some licensing stuff, and then it was just the challenge of how are we going to recreate them? And eventually, you know, getting to know Phil separate from this. We were doing work on restoring the Dragon Slayer puppet at Phil's shop, and he just happened to be there because it's Phil's shop. And, so finding out that he had the scans of the originals and had the 3D stuff that they had developed for Force Awakens and Solo, and then to be there while they were working on Solo and to see all these puppets up close and get to play with them, which that was the craziest thing, is they're like, oh, here's the cabinet, just go in and play with them. It was like, oh my God. Like, I fell in love with those things. I had always thought they were really cool. I always wanted a set of prop scale ones that were highly detailed, and they never had been done to the level I wanted. Even the stuff, fan made stuff that was good, it was never really there. And I didn't want to do it if we weren't going to be able to nail it. And when we had the digital on it, and when technology was just, there was a crossover point where technology caught up, and having digital didn't just mean that you had reference, but now you had outputable stuff that could be done in a high enough resolution that it wouldn't look printed, right? So having that so that we could develop these things and then mold and cast and do the rest of the work was step one. Having the right partners in place for the mold and cast, because at the time it was outside of our internal capability to do all of it. Because this is a run that was 77 sets of 10 figures, and then 100 or so sets individually of 2-packs. I believe the number at the end result of all of this was around 1,200 and change individual figures. You think of, oh, it's just 77 sets. And for a collector, I'm like, oh, that's nothing. That's great. But then as the guy who has to make it, you go, 77 sets, 10 figures, 770 figures? Like, what did we sign up for? And so, there we are making, I want to say between the body slam and the set, it was like 200 shirts for Mr. Big. And 200 belts for Mr. Big, and 200 little crotch flaps of leather, and distressing each one by hand, and his little butt flap, like all of this goes into it, and putting all the little hairs on him. There was so much that went into that set, but every time I look at it, every time I walk in the office, I see the set. That's the one that makes me go like, shit, we did it. Like we never thought we could. We didn't know that we were going to be able to. We didn't know that we were going to be allowed to, and that we managed to be both of those things. That's really special. On the Geek Out, oh man, there's so many times that's happened. There are many times where I didn't keep my cool. But I'll tell one story that it's not quite what you were saying, but I think it's in a similar realm. So John Berg is someone who I'm very close with. I consider him a dear friend. He is someone that when we get on the phone, we talk for hours. And I got to know him when we were doing a panel at Star Wars Celebration about the Cantina. And he we were going to go to dinner together after the panel. So the panel wraps up. He gets a phone call and walks off. My wife, Terry, and I are sitting there talking, and we're waiting for him to come over, and then we're going to go eat. And he comes over, and he looks just distraught. Like he looks just like someone just told him terrible news. And he goes, I'm so sorry to do this. Can Dennis Murin come? And so we just laugh. We're like, yes, of course, Dennis Murin can come to dinner with us. So we then go to dinner with him and Dennis. And that was just this great time. My wife actually had to go to bed because we were just geeking out and talking so long about just movie making and puppets and Ray Harryhausen and what inspired them and all their stories. The two of them have known each other forever and could tell, I could listen to them talk for hours. And so the next celebration comes up, and I'm sitting at a booth in the hotel lobby with a bunch of friends, all geek friends, and Dennis Murin walks by like 50 feet away, and they start elbowing. Oh my God, that's Dennis Murin. That's Dennis Murin. And I look over, and he looks over, and he goes, "Oh, hey, Tom." And he comes over to say hi. And they all were like,
that's awesome. That's who you are, right?
I don't know, you're like king of the nerds, like
that was your moment, yeah.
Dude, that's cool. Pretty awesome, man.
That was a really fun moment. That's for sure.
Oh, dude. Yeah, here we go. All right, here we go. So, are there more props in the horizon, like the Gaffy stick?
Possibly to be determined. We have some ideas. Like I said, the big thing there is balancing that with the FX and other licenses and making sure that everything's the right fit. And we'll see. Yeah, the good thing is we know that the A New Hope one sold out real quick, so that tells us there's some appetite for this stuff. And it's kind of like anything else. If there's stuff you want us to do, let us know. Join that Facebook group and post about it there, and
sure.
Tell us what you want to see. Email the studio and ask to get on a wait list of something. If it's sold out and you think we should make more, or you want stuff that's similar, tell us that. Tell us you want to be on the wait list for, some sold out edition, because in case we ever do another version of it, we're really careful not to redo the same thing. We don't want to re-release a direct copy of something. We don't want to minimize that original, but maybe there is
not like Hot Toys.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's not fair to the collector. We don't think it's fair to the collector to. We don't want to minimize that first edition. We want to keep it special. We did it with the Chewbacca. We had the original 50 that were done that just had the collar and no torso or anything. And we found that there was still a lot of people that wanted Chewbaccas, and there were a ton of people on our wait list for it. And so we said, okay, let's start doing something that is different. It's bigger. It's got the shoulders. It's got the bandolier. It's a very different price. And it's something that will produce maybe 10 at a time instead of 50 at a time. And we just, we bring them out as people order them. But it's different enough that the original edition is still special and it's still kind of sought after. And that's the goal. So, but it is helpful for us to know that people like Chewbacca. It's helpful for us to know that people are on that reuse wait list right now. And we keep getting, every day we come in the morning and there's a few rees and a few A New Hope gaffy stick wait list requests. And it's like, okay, so we know what people are looking for. It helps us. So please keep that going.
Nice.
Cool.
Go.
Are there other franchises that you wish you could get in on?
Oh man. Yeah.
Loaded question. Let's go.
Yeah, I don't want to show my hand on that necessarily, because there's a few that we have had some talks with.
It's okay. Just say Dune. It's all right.
What was that?
Just say Dune. It's okay.
No, there's a few that I'm, maybe not equally passionate about with Star Wars, but right up there that I think we could do some fun stuff with. So we'll see.
Okay. That was a good question.
Yeah, for sure.
Here's one. You might be taking business away from Medina, but Death Star
wall panels.
Hallways for collectors.
So,
or
so
diorama
1/6 scale gets a little tricky because there are licenses involved with different scales. When we're replicating something like the maquettes that already are small scale, we are doing a 1-to-1 replica of that maquette, so to speak.
Wow.
If we were to take a figure and a character and do a character as 1/6 scale, well, that puts us in a different license category there. Now maybe Hot Toys might have something to say about that.
Dude,
so we wouldn't be doing accessories for 1/6 scale stuff. We've done some life-size wall panels like that for people's home theaters and stuff, but it's not very cost-effective for this. So that's the sort of thing that, anybody who's ever made one for themselves, it's like, yeah, the materials might be cheap, but the amount of time that goes into making it, unfortunately for us, isn't free. I do love, every once in a while, we'll get someone who goes like, hey, this is $200. That's like, I can make that for $20 worth of resin. And you just kind of go like, you're hired. You now have to make all of ours because you work for free, sir.
That's good. That's a good one.
All right, here we go. Return of a large Rancor.
Yeah, so see the previous conversation about Chewie. If we ever did something there, we'd want to do it in a way that keeps that first edition special and is somewhat unique. We have a couple ideas on it. Frankly, we get a lot of people asking about the maquette version of the Rancor, which is about half scale. Which is a really, really cool piece too. So not on the horizon, but never say never.
Okay. This is people answering from the one question that you had about, how many releases you should do. So he's saying once a month max, once every 2 months is good. Any longer, we spend our money anywhere else.
I don't want that to happen. So thank you. Yeah.
He says,
okay.
Every 6 months. This guy says, I'm kind of $100 a month kind of deal guy.
Right.
Well, you got mixed. Yeah. I could imagine it's gonna be mixed. You know what I mean?
That's my boy.
I'm so behind because they started asking these questions way before when
I will say it's funny. The Grogu, that's one of those pieces. We have a few times where things at the studio make everybody stop. So like we'll have stuff through. we'll get like right now we're working on we have some Keaton Batman suits in that we're restoring. Like some people, yeah. So some people come in and see that and go like, "Oh my God, that's a Keaton Batman suit. That's amazing!" And they want to see it, and it's like, "Okay, get back to work." But then, other people just walk right past it. Then sometimes we'll have something from Star Wars, and most of the people stop, and then some of the people walk right past it. But there have been a few things that we've had. So one of them was we did a custom form to display an original NASA Gus Grissom spacesuit. It was one of his training suits. Obviously, he passed away in training, but it was one of his training spacesuits. But it's an actual NASA freaking spacesuit. That stopped everyone in their tracks as they walked by. Everyone stopped to look at that thing. But the other two were the Grogu maquette. As soon as we did, everybody would just stop and nobody walked by that thing. And then the other was a gizmo from the first Gremlins.
Oh, cool.
That'd be cool.
Which is kind of similar to Grogu, actually. But yeah, he's one of those things that he stopped. The girls, the guys, the Star Wars fans, the non-fans, everybody looks at him.
Hey, is there anything in the latest
guy's
season?
Talking about me. Wait a minute.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead, George. What were you saying?
Is there anything in the latest season of The Mandalorian that we should be looking out for that you guys have made, like a prop or something like that?
So they actually wrapped the show a while ago. So we didn't make anything specifically for this season. However, we've made stuff for season 1. We made stuff that we had stuff that turned up in season 2. We made stuff for Book of Boba Fett that turned up in Kenobi. So I wouldn't be surprised if some other stuff we've done turns up in this season. But I don't believe we had anything specifically made for this season.
Okay.
Here we go. These are my 1/6 collector.
Yeah.
People. A book of Boba.
Oh goodness.
Oh man, dude, that was a pretty cool scene though. I could imagine doing something like that.
6 scale Rancor is like 3 feet tall. Like that's a lot of resin.
Yeah.
Chasen asking, how much is the Jawa?
I don't have what like the current price would be because we had made them pre-pandemic, pre-inflation, frankly. So we'd have to relook about it. It was north of $5,000. They're all, literally head to toe made by hand, weathered to heck. Just the amount of time people sit there with, rasping up the edges of the fabric and stuff like that adds up. But we have to sit down and relook at them if and when we're going to put them on the site.
This is funny.
Oh, 1-to-1 bust. I can't do the full size. I'm trying to stay married. Although I am in the process of The Mandalorian, but no, I need to stay married.
Who came up with the Jabba the Hutt towel hanger? Was that you?
That's it was either me or Rich Riley. I feel like we had we were trying to figure out, we had done it originally as a magnet as a Celebration exclusive, and it went bonkers. And the towel ring was like, it was one of these things. It just like, we make this bigger. This is a door knocker or a towel ring. We actually did a metal door knocker for a while, but they wound up, the price kept going up on them at the foundry. So we couldn't keep that going. But yeah, the towel ring is a fun one. We actually, that's one of my little favorites there. It's a cool piece.
That is
something different.
Very cool and funny and fun.
I like that it's almost stealth geek. You don't like unless you really know Star Wars, you might not know even what that is. You might think it's just a weird gargoyle-y, towel ring that someone's got. It's a bronze thing. And I also like anytime we can bring bronze into stuff. I feel like it gives things an air of importance, even if they're dopey Star Wars monsters. I think that's just a fun thing to play around with. And I think it's one of the things I like about the magnet line is it feels like little sculptures and not just, mass produced injection molded pieces or something like that. Like, they're all hand painted. They either look like bronze or silver or stone or something like that. They have an artistic vibe about them.
That's dope.
Very cool.
Can we buy a Chewy ball, the bowcaster?
Can't at this time.
Okay.
That's about all I can say about that one.
Okay.
Yeah, please. I don't want to get him in trouble. All right. Here we go. That's a good question. I like this one. Would you dip into items that include actor likeness, like bust, etc.?
I think we kind of touched on that before.
Yeah, that's the question. I was reading off Jason's question.
Dude, I'm so behind because I'm trying to get everybody from the beginning. I'm so sorry.
You don't get to ask that twice, Jason. Come on.
Oh, I like this one too. A 1-in-1 Ewok.
Very, very much open to that. Sure, absolutely.
I like that.
One of my first gigs doing store displays for someone was a place called the Muck Time Toys in New York. I actually built them. Oh gosh, 8 or 9 Ewoks. They ranged from ones drumming on Scout Trooper and Stormtrooper heads to holding a bow and arrow to throwing a bolo over the head. I made one on a glider. Like this guy had Ewoks everywhere in his shop for a while. It was fun.
That's awesome.
That's cool.
Dude, that's good. Oh man,
we've restored a bunch of Ewoks. I'm just thinking now, and we also did this project. So Prop Store of London had a bunch of stuff from Stuart Freeborn. When Stuart retired, he and Kay moved to a small cottage, and they used to have a small estate that had a number of greenhouses. And in the greenhouses, he had stored all this stuff from the movies. And he had a whole bunch of leftover castings of faces of Ewoks. So there were Ewok faces and teeth and eyes and things like that. And so Prop Store sent the parts to me, and I, by hand, finished them all up into Ewok heads. Generic, not specific characters or anything. We didn't want to replicate something. And I made them, right from the outside. They look just like the real ones from the outside. But the assembly method on the inside is different enough that no one could pass it off as the real deal. And they've since, they've all found homes. They're really, really fun. And so, yeah, we have plenty of Ewok experience. We know what they look like inside and out. And I think it'd be really fun to tackle some of those.
Dude, that would be really cool. I like that one a lot. Here we go. The people are trying to get you in trouble now. Any hint or can you share on the next Mando creature statue after Grogu?
No.
That was fast.
What I can say is we have the next maquette will be a Return of the Jedi maquette, and it will be that's the one available on the 4th of April, and it will be a brand new signature, so a new maker. Someone that worked on Return of the Jedi and designed one of these creatures, pardon me, and that's about as much as I can hint about.
No, that's great. We'll take it as a tidbit right there.
If you go to the Regal Robot fan collector showcase group on Facebook, we'll probably put some teases in there before we even put them on the regular Facebook page or the website. So if you want to get the early scoop, that's where you go.
All right.
Yo, Tom, have you been hit hard by the shipping dilemma or your customers?
So it's not particularly, because so much of our stuff is done in-house. What we have had is shipping prices in general just going nuts, and where it hits us more, on the smaller stuff, it's not terrible. I think people would probably be surprised. Sometimes they'll see, $99 to ship this. He must be making a fortune on these. And it's like, no, at $99, we actually still eat $50 because it really costs us $150 to ship it. Where it really hits us on things like sometimes the Emperor thrones and the Tauntaun life-size bust that we do.
The big ones, yeah.
Stuff that goes freight. That is such a hit or miss thing right now. Freight prices really fluctuate, and sometimes you catch it right, and the price we have on the website is pretty close, and we don't lose too much on that. But most times we end up, we eat a little bit on that. We usually kind of try to build a little of the freight cost into the piece, because sometimes it just sounds like the freight cost is too high, even if we know it's realistic and not.
Gotcha. Dude, that's freaking interesting. Look, everybody wants you to sell the PO for the Gizmo now. Oh my goodness. Look, OnePlus for the Ewok. Listen, I think we uncovered a want for this piece. So if this ever happens, I need a credit somewhere. Thank you, ToyQuest101 for the simple line. This is awesome. Listen, I got 2 questions for you. These are from my daughter. So one is, what is the craziest thing you ever made?
Ooh,
craziest thing. Like when you got it, you were like, wow, yeah. Number one craziest thing that you ever made.
Okay, so man, I have one. I'm not even going to go there. It's too crazy, but I think probably if you go to the Tom Spina Designs website and search Statue of Liberty, we made
I seen it.
Oh yeah,
6 foot tall bust of the Statue of Liberty.
It's got a video,
riser that looks like the base of the statue, and then it's her from here up with the torch.
It was in 20 days, right?
Yeah, we made it in a crazy amount of time. It's crazy big. The actual sculpting on it was really like 8 days, and it was all hand sculpted by the team. So yeah, that's pretty crazy.
I'm pulling it up now. Oh my god!
Slowly, there you go.
Wow.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah. And that's 20 feet of her, and then when we added the base to it, it's a full 26 foot tall.
Oh wow.
Wow. Oh, she got arm tattoos? Let's go.
Yeah, it's a music festival. So like one year they added tattoos. We gave her the sunglasses. Like it's interesting where she's been over the years.
That's funny, man. That's awesome though.
It's an independent sleeve.
All right. So she's got 2 more questions here. So one is, what's one thing that you haven't worked on that you would like to work on? And I don't know if she meant character-wise or maybe just in general something that you wanted to work on that you haven't yet.
Yeah. I've been so lucky, man. I don't know. There's so much stuff that I've gotten to work on over the years. I mean, maybe. So we've gotten to work on a lot of Jim Henson stuff, but usually the creature stuff, either Dark Crystal or Labyrinth. I think it'd be fun to do some conservation work on some of the original Fleece puppet characters. You know, Kermit and Fozzie and Gonzo and Miss Piggy and that kind of stuff. I think that's probably something.
All right, that's a good one.
And yeah.
And then her last question. This is probably a fun one. If you had a chance to cameo in any Star Wars property, what would it be? Yo, my daughter has some hard-hitting questions.
She's got a good one.
Have you done it?
She just run the show. She's much better than the rest.
She definitely does. But that's a good question.
Machine? Like, can I go back in time to like one of the old movies, or does it have to be something now?
Question is, do you have a DeLorean?
You can go back in time.
Okay. If I have a DeLorean, can I cameo in Back to the Future? I would. Okay, well, again, it's a time machine. So first, I have to go back in time and kill baby Hitler. Let's just get that out of the way. So once I've done that, then I would go and put myself in the cantina scene. I would get myself like a pair of goggles and a hat and a vest with a belt on the outside, something like John Molo would sketch up, and I would just sit myself in a corner somewhere, you know, and out of the way. I don't want to change anything. It's like no butterfly effect here, you know. I just got to stay off to the side, but just make sure my sight line catches a camera at least once, so that when I watch, like, come back to now and I turn the movie on, I see myself and just like, you know.
That's me.
Yeah.
Dude, that's sweet.
That's good awesome. Questions. Tell her thank you.
I know. She's gonna rewatch this in the morning. Yeah, that was funny, man. That when she wrote these questions, I was like, "Where are you getting these questions from?" She's like, "My
best
head."
ones
like,
tonight.
She's outstanding. She's got a future,
right? She does. Listen, I really want to appreciate all you guys, the panel, everybody who came out to watch the show. Obviously, you, Tom, you've been great. You know, super awesome having you on. I love picking your brain, and like I said, man, it's all about the journey. Your passion shows, right? It showed tonight. You got a lot of people out here who like really appreciate what you do. We're gonna definitely find you on. All your links are gonna be in the bio of the video. I'm gonna go ahead and put the Facebook one right after we get on to make sure that's in there. I'm gonna put that also in our Facebook group, guys. So that way, you guys could go ahead and follow. I'm definitely gonna follow. But listen, I really appreciate you. And one more time, just let everybody know the Facebook group name again. And
Facebook, it's the Regal Robot Fans and Collectors Showcase. And you can find us at Regal Robot or at Tom Spina Designs, just about everywhere. Get on YouTube, follow us there, follow us on Facebook, InstaFace, Twitbook, all of it.
Listen, if I ever hit the lottery, you're going to just come and design my house, period.
Hey, that'd be a lot of fun.
That's right.
Well, thank you guys. Seriously, this has been so much fun. I appreciate all the great questions. It's a shame his daughter had to put all of us to shame tonight.
I know, right?
You're right.
So I left that for the end.
No, this was a lot of fun. Thank you so much.
Dude,
I do appreciate, the fact that you just call out the passion that, it's not just me. It's everybody at the shop. It's Rob. It's myself. It's, right down to the customer service people who aren't, necessarily making this stuff. Anybody who's ordered from us has probably realized, Katie, Tracy, Ross, Christine, Eric, anybody who has been here along the way, helping folks out, they put as much passion into that as we do making the stuff. And I think that, that's probably the thing I'm most proud of. And it's nice to know that folks notice it and appreciate it.
Oh, dude,
absolutely,
for sure, man. Definitely a pleasure having you on. We definitely, as fans, we appreciate what you do. And things like this, man, the fans appreciate it more. Like, I'm a fan of what you guys have, but now I feel like I'm more into it now, right? Because I get to know you a little bit more.
You're in the club, yeah.
I know, right? And I hopefully run into you one day at a con or something, man. I really do hope to see you. But let's move on to the panel. George, anything you got coming up, or anything in the works? I know you said you got a lot of stuff around there.
A lot of stuff, man. Probably do a little review on these. Got a lot more stuff to do. But this weekend, I'm taking a break. I'm taking my family up to Universal Studios, and I'm going to drink and sleep.
So,
All right.
But Josh, what about you, Josh? I know Josh, he's getting a couple pieces in, but anything in the pipeline for you?
No, just more reviews coming up, and my weekly show with you every Thursday night at 8:30.
That's right. So let them know where they can find you too on your YouTube channel.
Oh yeah, you can find me at McCoy Culture, and also on Instagram, McCoy Culture. If you're into statue reviews and hot toy reviews and talking about movies like the Marvel movies, and we're gonna be talking about some of the DC stuff, definitely come on, check us out. It's a good time over there.
Nice. And Connor, when are you gonna have your next Whatnot sale, man?
I think I'm gonna do it this weekend. We'll see if time permits. Otherwise, it'll be early next week. And I'm actually gonna schedule one. I've been so busy lately, so
I know, man. You gonna have some Star Wars stuff there? You're gonna tell everybody you got to speak to Tom Spina?
Yeah, of course I am. And Tom, I really hope you come back and see us again. I'm here with Josh and Miguel pretty much every week. So
cool.
Hope you come back.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, dude, awesome. And Dennis from ToyQuest101 Unboxed, my man. He's the guy who runs Puerto Rico. He's that guy. Yeah, Dennis, man, thank you for coming on. I know it's super late in Puerto Rico. I know you were. Dennis was super. When he found out you were coming on, he was so excited, man. He was so excited. And you know what's funny? When I talked to Tom, we were, everything's about scheduling and stuff, and we scheduled it out to now, right? We've been working on it for a while, but what great timing with the Mandalorian, with you revealing, the maquette. Just great timing. Dennis was super excited.
We don't usually shoot for that level of synergy. With us, it's more like bouncing around like a pinball and just happen to fall in the hole.
Dude, it worked great. I'm super happy. But Dennis was excited to be on. So Dennis, what you got going on?
Well, right now, by next week, you'll have the unboxing of the Joker, 1/5, and in 2 weeks. Maybe 1 week, you have 1/3 Wolverine by PCS unboxing. So this will be fun times.
Let's go.
Broke times, but fun times.
Very good. Well, listen, guys, I appreciate you guys. I appreciate everybody who came tonight to watch the show, man. And I hope to see everybody in our group. Like I said, I'm gonna put all the links in the bio, both in the group and in this video. For those who are catching the replay, because I know everybody's out Fridays, man. I hope you hit the comment section, let us know feedback, and we'll see you guys on the next episode of Toy Quest 101 Collectors Assemble Live. See you guys.